Hello, everybody. This is Ellis Paul. I'm here in Charlottesville, Virginia. We're starting just a slightly bit early with the pre-lounge show so people can come and settle in before the show starts today. Looking forward to doing the show today. This is Ellis Paul's Traveling Medicine Show. Look at this, Friday, May 7th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook Live, on all of those internet kind of website-y, Facebooky appsy, including James Keelaghan's Facebook page. Hello to all his fans tonight. I'm happy to be here with James. He's one of my favorite songwriters, and we've been friends for years, and I totally admire his work, one of the finest storytellers in folk music. He's going to be our special guest today, and our subject matter, I guess I forgot to mention that, is this. It's how literature affects songs. So we're going to be looking at poems and books, the Bible, short stories, anything that can inspire songwriters, both in popular music and in James' music and my own. We'll be talking about how we read books, and that leads to song ideas. And there you have it. If you're just joining us, let me know where you're from, and please do share this on your Facebook pages, because Facebook does everything it can to just stomp this down. We have 14,000 people that want to be watching this right now for my Facebook page alone. None of them get to see it except for a few hundred, because Facebook keeps them from seeing it. But if you share, we'll get it out there. I wouldn't want to have to boost it. It costs $1,000 for everybody to see the show tonight, and I just don't have that kind of cashola. So we're just going to enjoy ourselves here and wait for the show to begin. Hey, I'm going to play a little music in the background. This is Boys of Summer off the Patreon album. Oklahoma in the house. Hello, Charlotte. Good to see you tonight. Thanks for coming back by. I hope you have good weather there. It's a beautiful day in Charlottesville, Virginia here. Go grab a beverage, guys. Put your feet up. Nobody on the road. Nobody on. Thank you, Charles, for the love in the tip jar already. Good to have you as a patron out there in the world. Thank you so much. Hello, Jen Cash. Good to see you. Glad you're tuning in tonight. Lisa Johnson from Tewksbury, Mass. is back in here again. Thank you for coming by. I know you're not home, but I can see you. The music is shaking my computer a little bit. Let me know where you're from, y'all. Pull up a chair. Patty Degnan, I think I pronounced that right, from East Lansing, Michigan, is with us tonight. Alberta, Canada is in the house. Deb Hughes-Gar, thank you for tuning in, Deb. Joan Peacroft from Owen Sound, Ontario. I expect a lot of folks from the upper U.S. and Canada tonight watching who are fans of James, and want to welcome you all into our weekly show. Greetings from Whidbey Island, Washington State. All right. Love that. Perth, Ontario. All right. Happy to have you here, Maureen. Thank you guys for the support of the show. James is going to be on around 8:30, and we're going to talk for about a half an hour. Make sure you take care of him. I'm going to put up his PayPal account, and you can share your love with him then. But of course, the rest of the show is mine, and love your support. And anyway, just listening in is always great. Newfoundland, Canada in the house. Lainey Sporbert, North Adams. Good to have you here. We're going to start about 8 o'clock on the hour, guys. This is just a gathering time. We got the Yukon in the house. Nice to have all these folks from Canada here. Please share this on your Facebook pages, guys, as we wait for the show to begin. Thrilled to have James on today. We're going to be talking about how literature affects songwriters. Should be a great night. Folks in Alberta, Gary Dittrich. Nova Scotia in the house, and Bethany near Lake Overholser. I like that. A little voice inside my head said, don't look back, you can never look Darlene back. Is in Kentucky here. I thought I knew what love was, but did I know? Those days are gone forever. I should just let them go by. I can see you. Your brown skin shining in the sun. You got the top. Cleveland, Ohio there. Noreen Flannery is in the house with us here. Thanks for tuning in, Noreen. Kathy Crawford from Mission, British Columbia. Hello there in Calgary. Ken Yazinchuk. Thanks for tuning in, brother. Nice to have you all here tonight. El Reno, Oklahoma. There's Tom Harris. All right, brother. Thanks for tuning in. Got good memories of El Reno. Kevin F. Friend, he's up there in Nova Scotia. Says he met me at Stanfest, one of the greatest of the Canadian folk festivals. Mr. James Keelaghan is the director of Summerfest up there in Ontario as well. He's multitasking. Jackie McDonough over there in Pittsburgh. All right, we'll play one more song here as we wait for the crowd to assemble. Thanks again, folks, for sharing this on your sites. Let's see. Let's do Vincent. I'm playing songs from the Traveling Medicine Show album. You can get this, of course, at the website or by being a member of Patreon. Nice to have you guys here tonight. It's going to be a great show. We're going to start in about 3 or 4 minutes. Mr. James Keelaghan is going to be our guest tonight, and we're going to be talking about literature and its effect on music, songwriters. Starry, starry night. Paint your palette blue and gray. Peter McDonald, 1997 Winnipeg Folk Fest. There you go. It's a long time ago. Nice to have all these Canadian folks today. Lots to tell you about, folks. I'm going to tell you right now a couple things. We're going to be doing the Traveling Medicine Show Festival online. Tom Rush, Susan Ward, a couple Canadians coming to play for us on the festival. Rose Cousins, a Juno Award winner, and an up-and-coming artist named Benjamin Dakota Rogers. I hope you will join us. I'll get this comment off the page for a minute. It's going to be Sunday, May 23rd, 6 p.m. Tom Rush, Susan Warner, Vance Gilbert, Willie Porter, Americans and Canadians celebrating songwriting on May 23rd. Check that out. I'll show you more on that after we start the show. Okay? I'm just going to start in a couple minutes. Pull up a beverage. Share this on your Facebook feeds, and we'll see you in a minute. Flaming flowers that brighten. Stacy Rico is here in the house. Swirling clouds. Ann Matheson from Duncan, British Columbia, and Charmin Blair from North Carolina. Richard McClary Hill, howdy from Champaign. I assume that's in Illinois, not in France. Marsh Hahn over there in Fort Collins, Colorado. Nice to have you here as well. Marsh, thank you. Eleni Engels. Leanie, right? Did I get that right? Let me know. Tim from Tampa Bay, thanks, brother, for tuning in. And our friend Karen Zundel over there near Pittsburgh. She runs the home office. Thank you, Karen, for all you do. And I tried to set them free. They would not listen, they did not know how. Katie Doyle Thompson over there on Staten Island. Nice. Stacy is fully vaccinated, hasn't been wiped out by it yet, but tomorrow's a brand new day. I hope you have a better one than I did. Dennis McCracken is here. Thank you, brother, for tuning in from Southern Pines, North Carolina, and Mike Morris from Northern Ohio. And that one name that's so hard to pronounce, Leominster, Massachusetts. Scarlett Nice to have you back. Snohomish, Ellis. Love you, my man. I love that. Thank you, Jeremy. Glad you're here tonight. James will be with us in just about half an hour. We're going to start the show as soon as this song ends. It's going to be a fun night. We're in Charlottesville, Virginia here, folks, watching the sunset in this window below, behind me, I should say. It'll darken everything before we're done here. Anne-Marie in Melbourne, Australia. So glad you're here. I have no idea what it is time-wise. It must be over there. Quite early, I'm guessing. Don and Jean Ackerman over there in Massachusetts. Lowell Gilbert wants to spare his family the sound of his own music, so he's going to share with ours here. That's great. Thank you, man. Good to see you too, Nancy. Thanks for coming back in. We're just going to start in a couple minutes, guys. As soon as the song is finished, we will start it up. You can hear it winding down. Maria Weaver is in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. And as the song slows down, we will start the show. This is a little bit of a banner beginning that we have here. Check this out. Let's see if I can make this happen. Someday there will be a reckoning of us. It's a nice song. That's not what I want to have happen here. Let's see. Interesting. Hold on there, folks. That's Susan Warner. Hello, my friends out there in the world. You're listening to Ellis Paul here in Charlottesville, Virginia. Tonight we have a very special show. My dear friend James Keelaghan is going to join us in about a half an hour. Tonight it's Ellis Paul's Traveling Medicine Show. We filmed the show here in Charlottesville, Virginia, in my home. And our topic tonight is how books inspire songs. That's a little bit of an idea that both James and I came up with for a theme tonight. And I know from talks and walks with James how much he's into history and books. And so we're going to look at how books inspire us and to write, and not only in our songs, but in popular music as well. And I'm going to start with a song of my own here. It's called Jukebox On My Grave, a pretty simple song. I was reading a Jim Carroll novel named The Basketball Diaries. And there was a line in it about when he dies, he wants to have a jukebox put on his grave. And I thought to myself, oh, that's such a great image. It felt so good that I figured it must have been written already. So I went to Google and I put in lyrics, jukebox, and grave, and 10,000 songs about jukebox came up. And 10,000 songs about graves came up, but none combining both of them. So I sat down, and this is the first of the songs that I'm going to play tonight that was inspired from literature. James Carroll's Basketball Diaries. This is called Jukebox On My Grave. When I'm gone on my judgment day, Please put a jukebox upon my grave. Don't want no headstone, no cold tears, just a jukebox to say a music man lays here. And all my friends, when they drop by, can drop a quarter down and hear Roy Orbison's cry. A flood of memories comes wave by wave, carried by the voice inside the jukebox on my grave. You can hear Hank Williams, some George Jones, some Beatles songs, a little Dylan, some Rolling Stones, Joni Mitchell, and Marvin Gaye, and Johnny Cash. He's risen from the ashes on my grave, my grave. That's Johnny Cash singing Boy Named Sue upon my grave. When I'm gone, on my judgment day, put a quarter in the jukebox upon my grave. I don't want no headstone claiming I was brave. Just a jukebox singing songs upon my grave. My grave, just a jukebox singing songs upon my grave. All right, that's Jukebox on My Grave, a song inspired by a novel by Jim Carroll called Basketball Diaries. It took me all of 5 minutes to put that song together. It's funny about how sometimes you're reading, and oftentimes there's so many songs that were inspired by the Bible, for example. Turn, Turn, Turn by Pete Seeger, Bridge Over Troubled Water by Paul Simon. Sometimes books just put the stuff out on ink and paper, and then suddenly it's on your paper and you're trying to make it your own, borrowing, stealing, getting inspired by those things. And so many songwriters use whatever inspiration they can find, and why not use books? Because some of those writers have already done a lot of the heavy lifting, as you know. Yes, Tom Hamill's right. This was a memoir. I'm sorry, not a novel, and a great one at that. What a harrowing life Jim Carroll led. A great read if you guys ever pick that book up. It's a wonderful book. Another one, Into the Wild, is a book by John Krakauer about a guy named Chris McCandless, and I wrote a song about it, inspired by the book, and it's a little bit of fiction on my part, but I'm going to play it for you here as well. So this song, another book song inspired by a book called Into the Wild by John Krakauer. and this is the Ballad of Chris McCandless. A lot of the details are fictionless, pieces of fiction, I should say. Let's get another guitar here for this one. I've got my windows open tonight. You might hear sirens and cars and who knows what else, birds. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Darkness is falling. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Where are you now? Look up, look up, look up. What is your calling? Wake up, wake up, wake up, and look around. He was out on the highway smiling, a mystic in torn blue jeans. The kid left his trust fund to come out walking. And he heads to cross this country with a backpack and a head full of dreams. I could have sworn he heard the earth talking. And he said, sometimes don't it feel like the concrete's closing in? We're putting bricks on the horizon. And was he chasing fool's gold, or a holy man walking a dirt road? Tell me, yeah. I hitched a ride with Chris McCandless, stepped in the wild of a dream. The horizon in South Dakota is an ocean of harvest grain. In a dusty silo we found work for the taking. We'd hitched up from California, but he never told me his real name. He never told me what past he was out here shaking. Oh, we're all shaking some and sometimes. Don't it feel like technology's closing in? We're putting towers on the horizon. Was he chasing fool's gold, or a holy man walking a dirt road to the end? I hitched a ride with Chris McCandless, stepped in the wild of a dream. A stone, a path, a river of glass. The the night sky. Hey, can you see stars from wherever you are? Wherever you are. In a broken school bus they found him, the heart of the Alaska range. The journey ends when the heart stops beating. Time is fleeting, and was he chasing fool's gold, or a holy man walking a dirt road to the end? I hitched a ride with Chris McCandless, stepped in the wild with Chris McCandless, wide awake in the dream. All right, folks, that's a song of my own called The Ballad of Chris McCandless. It's based on a true-to-life novel. I guess it's nonfiction in a way, about the life of Chris McCandless, who lived down in Atlanta area, I guess, and ended up in Alaska. And, it's just a great read, that book. I love that book. A book that kind of changed my life in a lot of ways. Let's do a couple more songs before we bring Jim on. If you're just tuning in now, you're listening to Ellis Paul's Traveling Medicine Show. This has been a weekly show since the pandemic began. We've done a year's worth of this at least. We're coming up on the year anniversary, in fact. Let me show you what the show is tonight first. This is Ellis Paul's Traveling Medicine Show. We film this from Charlottesville, Virginia, every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time in the U.S. Our special guest tonight is James Keelaghan, a Juno award-winning artist, songwriter, organizer from Canada. He was born in Calgary, I believe. And tonight we're going to be talking about how books and literature inspire songwriters, including ourselves. It's going to be a nice night. I want to let you guys know we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary with a pretty huge festival, including lots of acts from Canada and the U.S. Tom Rush, Susan Warner, Vance Gilbert, Willie Porter, Adam Ezra, Rose Cousins, a Juno award-winning artist from Canada, Nobody's Girl, Jonathan Bird, Chris Matthews, Heather May, Benjamin, Dakota Rogers, an up-and-coming Canadian artist, Laurie McAllister of Red Molly, and myself. That's happening May 23rd at 6 p.m. We're going to have 2 stages. One stage is going to be a stage for interviews, and the other one is performance, and you can go back and forth. If you buy a ticket, you can't see the show that day. Of course, it's going to be up for a few weeks. A ticket will give you the ability to come in and get busy with all of that video stuff that's happening. It's going to be a lot of fun. Here's how you get a ticket if you'd like to go directly there. If you are on my Patreon page, of course, there's huge discounts on the ticket price. It's $25 US. Otherwise, there's a little QR code there. You can just put your camera phone on it, and it'll take you right to the ticket booth. And you can see, again, Tom Rush, Susan Warner, a couple Canadians in there that I'm really happy about, Rose Cousins and Benjamin Dakota Rogers, who I talked to this morning. Just a super guy, and just a sweet, sweet voice on him. Again, that's going to be May 23rd, 6 p.m., ellispaul.com. I'm going to try a song. It's a little bit dangerous to do this song because there's some major craziness to how it was written. It's a song, though, that was inspired by Vladimir Nabokov's novel Lolita. Do you know what song that is? I'll let you see if you can guess it. Meanwhile, let me see if I can make this thing happen. This is going to be interesting. Young teacher, the subject of schoolgirl fantasy. She wants him so badly, knows what she wants to be. Inside her, there's longing. This girl's an open page. Bookmarking, she's so close now. This girl is half his age. Don't stand so close to me. Don't stand so close to me. Her friends are so jealous. You know how bad girls get. Sometimes it's not so easy to be the teacher's pet. Temptation, frustration, so bad it makes him cry. Not bus stop, she's waiting. His car is warm and dry. Don't stand so close to me. Don't stand so close to me. Oh, please don't stand so close to me. Please don't stand so close to me. Loose talking, the classroom, to hurt they'll try and try. Strong words in the staff room, those accusations fly. It's no use, he sees her, he starts to shake and cough, just like the old man in that book by Nabokov. Don't stand so close to me. Don't stand so close to me. Oh, please don't stand so close to me. Please don't stand so close to me. Please don't stand so close to me. The chord changes in this are so bizarre that it goes from G minor on the verses to D major on the chorus. But man, what an amazing song, and all inspired by Vladimir Nabokov's novel Lolita. If you're just joining us, you are listening to Ellis Paul's Traveling Medicine Show. And we're just about going to bring Jim on here in a minute. We got another 7 minutes or so for our guest to show up. Thank you for the love in the tip jar tonight, guys, from Candace Fonts and Scott Wayne. Thank you so much for supporting the show, feeding the kids, as they say. Another song here in popular culture is the Rollingstones' Sympathy for the Devil, one of many songs that was inspired by the Bible. As I said before, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Turn, Turn, Turn. Can you guys think of any other songs that were inspired by the Bible that come to mind? If you do, put it in the feed. I'd love to hear from you and see what you think as well. Let's see what this one sounds like. Beautiful night here in Charlottesville, Virginia. great storytelling in this song as well. It's just the use of language, and I love the Stones. I know there's always a lot of competition between people who think the Stones are better than the Beatles, and back and forth. And to me, I heard it described this way: that the Beatles were like art students that drove around on Vespas, those little motor scooters, and the Stones were more like driving around on Harley Davidson and leather jackets and that kind of thing. I think there's some truth in that. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been along for a long, long time. Stole many a man's soul and faith. I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and pain. Made damn sure that Pilate washed his hands and sealed his fate. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guessed my name. What's puzzling you is the nature of my game. I stuck around St. Petersburg when I saw it was time for a change. I killed the Tsar and his ministers, Anastasia screamed in vain. I rode a tank, held a general's rank, when the blitzkrieg raged and the bodies stank. Pleased to meet you. Hope you catch my name. And what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. Yeah, I watched with glee while the kings and queens fought for 10 decades for the gods they made. I shouted out, who killed the Kennedys? When after all, it was you and me. Let me introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I laid the traps for the troubadours who got killed before they reached Bombay. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guessed my name. What's puzzling you is the nature of my game. Yeah. Pleased to meet you. I hope you guess my name. Just like every cop is a criminal, and all the sinners saints. As heads as tails, just call me Lucifer, 'cause I'm in need of some restraint. So if you meet me, have some courtesy, have some sympathy, have some taste. Use all your well-learned politics, or I'll lay your soul to waste. Pleased to meet ya. Hope you guess my name. That's right. I was puzzling here is the nature of my pain. Oh yeah. Ooh, ooh, Sympathy for the Devil, song by the Rolling Stones. And the song before that was Don't Stand So Close by the Police, which was a big song for them. It was on their third album, number one single off their third album. Went to number one in the UK, was top 10 in the US. Hey, I'm really happy to have you all here. I know there are folks from all over the world tonight, in Australia and all over Canada, to come and visit with this guy. I want to thank Timothy for the love and the tip jar, and Julia as well. Thank you guys for taking care of the show here, as well as Candace. Before I bring him on, I just want to make sure my settings are good. Let's see here. Audio. There we go. Okay. Very good. This gentleman I met in the 90s when I was at the Kerrville Folk Festival. He was a judge in the New Folk Contest. I was one of the winners that year. And I remember waiting in the back wings for my name to be called, and it was called last out of 6 people that were winners that year. And I ended up talking with him, I think, that night, and we hit it off great. And over the years, we've crossed paths, and he's just an incredible storyteller, a lover of history and truth-telling in stories, a Juno award-winning cat from up in Ontario now, and he's also the director of Summerfest, which is a wonderful festival that I played up there. Glad to have him here with us tonight. This is James Keelaghan.
Hey, Ellis.
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing really good.
Thanks for joining me tonight. I've wanted to have you on, and I'm so glad that you said yes, because you're one of my favorite songwriters. I don't think there's anybody that tells a tale better than you do. There's so many songs of yours that I love, and I'm curious on what you're gonna choose to sing about in your own catalog tonight. But I know that you read books, because I don't know. Once you and I took a walk around Toronto, I think it was, or was it Winnipeg? I can't remember. But you were telling me history of the city as we were walking around, and it was just fascinating how much you knew about Canadian history. You're clearly a reader. Am I right?
I am a reader, but I'm also an atrocious liar. So, so you never know. Like you never know whether I was giving you the gears or not. But no, history is definitely my thing, and I love it. I love its immediacy. I love the fact that it goes on, that it keeps getting bigger every day, and that that there's an endless stream of stories in it, and a lot of them just way more intricate and involved and crazier than fiction, I find.
Yeah, and it's funny with history, especially that we get a different take on the same stories as time goes on as well. We rewrite history from a different objective point and get a better understanding as we go. So it's interesting, especially in the U.S., where we're constantly looking back, trying to figure out where we're moving in the forward direction at the same time. And as the country is changing so dramatically, especially in the last few years, we're looking back at history and saying, like, why are we looking at history like this when there's some different shades in there that we should be paying attention to that we're ignoring. But you're also a lover of regular books, am I right? I mean, you're also a fiction lover, and
Yeah, I don't read a lot of fiction, quite frankly. I like find authors that I like, and I read their stuff, and I tend to read fairly kind of pulpy fiction, but nonfiction is really my thing. But if you find like I find that if you read the right history, like my favorite history book is The Guns of August by Barbara Tuchman, right? And it's it's a masterclass in narrative, right? Because she takes it, it's all history, it's all research. She did vast amounts of research and got in a lot of trouble because she was telling a new version of that history that hadn't been told before. But the narrative is just so strong that that from beginning to end you just feel like you're swept up in a story and it just moves along like a novel would move along. And when you find somebody who writes history like that, it's I just think it's like the best thing
Yeah,
around. Like
for me too.
just the opening paragraph of the Guns of August. A lot of people, sort of us amateur historians, agree that it's probably one of the best openings to a book ever.
I'll have to
Uh,
check that out. I haven't read it.
yeah,
Is it a
yeah.
Canadian history or
No,
what?
actually, she was from Massachusetts.
Okay.
She was a professor. She wasn't at Harvard. She was a professor a college in Massachusetts, and wrote her. This was her biggest book of her life was The Guns of August, and it's about the first month of the First World War,
Yeah.
just the first month, and
Wow.
it's so compelling. But when I say that she was writing a new history, and this is the thing that I love about history, is that people think that history is this immovable thing, and it's not. It changes. As new information comes to light, as people start re-examining things, the history starts to change. So the dominant narrative of the history of the First World War, especially if you came from sort of a British or English speaking perspective, was that this tiny little British army on the end of the French line actually saved the world from
Wow.
destruction, right? But that's not what the narrative actually was. And when she sort of retold the story, this is when you started to have all in the mainstream, you started to have this examination of how poor the generals actually were and how they slaughtered millions and millions of men through their incompetence. These guys who up to that point had been considered heroes in the official histories. And she took on the official history and rewrote it. And there was this vast amount of controversy over the book when it first came out, but still just an amazing read. But I do I do read I read a lot of books by my friends. I have a lot of friends that actually write, and a good friend of mine, Anne DeGrace, out in Nelson, British Columbia, right now. Her and I are working on a project where she's taking one of my songs and writing a short story about it, and I'm taking one of her short stories and writing a song about it.
A little cultural exchange
Yeah,
there.
and
Well,
seeing how that goes.
why don't I let you sing a couple songs and then I'll come back after two songs and we'll chat a little bit again, okay?
Yeah, I want to talk to you about Sympathy for the Devil
For the
though when we
devil.
come back. Yeah,
That would be great. Yeah. Fill me in. All
but
right. Cheers.
so one of the things about writing from uh, other authors and writing for books is that uh, quite often people have written things and they you look at them and you go like that's such an amazing poem or that's such an amazing book or such an amazing passage, and uh, you go I wonder what I would have written if I was writing on the same subject but writing about it from my where I come from my point of view. And I always loved A.E. Housman's To an Athlete Dying Young. And just one night I was kicking around trying to think of something to write about, and I was reading that poem, and I thought, what would A.E. Housman have written if he had been raised on the prairies? Because the poem is the time you won your town the race, we cheered you through the marketplace. Man and boy stood cheering by, and home we brought you shoulder high. And today the road all runners come, shoulder high we bring you home, and set you at your threshold down, townsman of a stiller town. Smart lad, to slip betimes away from fields where glory does not stay, and early through the laurel groves, it withers quicker than the rose. And so I thought, had A.E. Housman actually been uh, born on the prairies and had taken the notion to write a poem called To an Athlete Dying Young, would it have been a long distance runner, or would it have been a hockey player? And I thought a hockey player. So this is, in a very real way, this is me stealing To an Athlete Dying Young and then rewriting it for my own purposes. Johnny Mac lived near Maple Creek. He was long and lean and tough, a level head and a steady hand and a wizard with the puck. And once across the blue line, oh, he'd never let you down. You could tell by the look in his cold black eyes, that boy was glory bound. Bring her hometown to its feet with a goal in overtime. The scouts had pegged him, sure enough, it was just a matter of time. If there was any justice in this world, he'd be picked in the second round. 'Cause he had the goods, there was no denying that boy was glory bound. Afternoon before a game, I stopped by Johnny's place with my father's car and a feeling in my heart that night we'd take first place. But there was something that he'd left behind, he'd fetch it back in town. I never dreamt it at the time that fate would strike him down. On the Mounties when he didn't show, we found him in a ditch between here and Shaunavon. The roof caved and it's 50 below. Sirens wail and the blizzard blows. Died young, but I grew old, and since that time I've come to think, when I see that name engraved on trophies or his picture in a case in the kinsman's rink, I somehow slipped the bonds of time. He's gained himself renown. I've started on that slow slide back. He's forever glory bound. I've started on that slow slide back. He's forever glory bound. Glory Bound, inspired by A.E. Housman. To an Athlete Dying Young. And I'm going to stick on the prairies because this next song was inspired by a book by Wallace Stegner, great American author, very underrated, and sort of Canadian American author, American Canadian author. as would be evidenced if you ever picked up his most outstanding work, which is a book called Wolf Willow, which is about the area of the prairies that he grew up in near the Cypress Hills, down in the lower west-hand corner of Saskatchewan. And it's amazing how an author can make you feel new about the world that you live in. That can make you see your world in a different way. You know, I grew up in Calgary on the edge of the prairies, and I was always a prairie guy. I was like way more comfortable on the prairies than I was in the mountains, for example. And I really liked something about the wide open vistas. But sometimes you don't really figure out a way to express that until you read an author that actually sort of puts it into words for you for the first time. You realize that you're not the only person that feels that way, that somebody's actually written an entire book about that. And so this song and a couple of other songs that were inspired by Stegner's work, but My Skies, I think, was the first one that was inspired by Wolf Willow. And just in the first 4 pages, he's sort of describing the landscape of the Cypress Hills and that little corner of land that he says runs between the Milk River and the CPR main line. And he writes about it, and he says, "It is also the place where the plains as an ecology, as a native Indian culture, as a process of white settlement came to their climax and their end. Viewed personally and historically, that almost featureless prairie glows with more color than it reveals to the appalled and misdirected tourist. As memory, as experience, those plains are unforgettable. As history, they have the lurid explosiveness of a prairie fire, quickly dangerous and swiftly over." Great book. If you ever get a chance to read Wolf Willow, especially if you're from the prairies or you're from Western Canada or the Western United States. Anyway, it inspired this song, which ended up being the title of one of my CDs. Take a walk under my skies, try to see it once the way I do. If you look out through my eyes, you'll find a different point of view. Everything changes, every fact wears some disguise. Cast off your troubles, take a walk under my sky. Not one rule since you've been born that's not been tattered and has not been torn. Not one thing you cared about that's not been darkened by the shadow of doubt. Hard times, take a walk under my skies, try to see it once the way I do. If you look out through my eyes, you'll find a different point of view. Everything changes, every fact wears some disguise. Cast off your troubles, take a walk under my sky. Not one dream you can hold that's not been bought and has not been sold. Not one payment you can make. It's like a thirst you can never slake. Hard times, take a walk under my skies, try to see it once the way I do. If you look out through my eyes, you'll find a different point of view. everything changes. Every fact wears some disguise. Cast off your troubles, take a walk on the night sky. Hard times, hard times, hard times.
Beautiful, man. It's so good to hear you.
Thank you. It's so good to be heard.
And I love that first song. I used to be a distance runner, so I connected with the poem a lot, the A. E. Housman poem. But I love that detail that you wrote in the song about looking into the trophy case and seeing his name on the trophies and having that he's going to be there forever. What is the verse? Remind me of the verse.
I can never think of my verses unless I'm playing them. Well,
Right.
Johnny grew old, but Johnny died young, but I grew old, and since that time I've come to think, when I see his name engraved on trophies or his picture in a case in the kinsman's rink, he somehow slipped the bonds of time. He's gained himself renown, and I've started on that slow slide back, but he's forever glory bound.
So beautiful, really.
Yeah.
That's
So,
that is a piece of literature.
so do you want
Actually,
to see? Do you want to hear where? Did you? I got to find the part in the A. E. Housman poem. Here, just one sec. Uh,
you use language so beautifully. And I want to thank Noreen
yeah.
and Candace and Phil and Julia for the love in the tip jar, and thank you guys for taking care of our friend James here as well. Appreciate it.
So A. Housman wrote the part of the poem. There is now you will not swell the rout of lads that wore their honor out, runners whom renown outran, and the name died before the man.
Wow, renown
Yeah.
outran.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
funny
good.
because I keep do you collect? I don't actually collect them, but I have a lot of rhyming dictionaries, right?
I have two, and I'm a user of Rhymes on almost a daily basis, which is an online site
Well,
that's pretty good. But the
you should blow
thesaurus,
you should blow your mind and buy a British rhyming dictionary
yeah, they're
because
great.
because the rhymes are different.
Oh, because their pronunciation is different.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think he could. I think he also could. Where was that route out? Renown outran before the man. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So it's
nice.
just a different way of rhyming.
Hey, I wanted to ask you something just because it's off topic, because we were talking about this during our sound check about how the Canadian government takes care of its artists as cultural ambassadors, protecting them by making sure that stages in Canada don't get overrun by foreigners and making sure that the percentages, there are rules around that stuff, right? And programming and grants available to you guys that are just amazing. I'd love to let my audience know what the Canadian government does for people like
Well,
you.
well, there are rules about programming on radio. Like there has to be a certain amount of radio uh, content that is Canadian. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's sort of a guideline for us booking within festivals that we have to have a certain percentage of people from one place or another. So the Canadian festivals tend to book quite a lot of talent from around the world, as well as a lot of Canadian talent. But the mandated stuff is in the radio content. And what the government did when they set up the Canadian content rules in radio, which was back in the early 70s, of course, the broadcast industry was just like they were aghast that this was going to happen. But the Canadian government was canny and basically, because I think they were going to come in with like they had to go to 70% Canadian content, like Yeah,
Wow.
there was like, we can't. They said, well, we'll make that 40% in the first 4 years of this, but you're going to kick into a fund, which became the Foundation for the Assistance of Canadian Talent on Records. And so that created a fund of money that artists could apply to record demo projects, to record albums. And it's still there, and it's still largely funded out of royalties that are paid by the radio stations. But a lot of Canadian talent that including people like Shania Twain or people like that, accessed factor money in order to get their original recordings done. Right, so that's how the Canadian industry was fostered.
And even if you're writing songs that are critical of the Canadian government, you can still apply to the funding and or do they review it and is there a little bit of any kind of government involvement in
No,
censoring?
it's all arm's length. I mean,
See, that's just amazing.
some of the provincial granting bodies are actual government departments of culture within the thing. But the whole jury process that happens is an arm's length peer reviewed jury. You're being reviewed by, like, when you put an application in as a performer or as a writer for a grant, the people who are the jury are other writers or performers that are
Oh, wow.
jurying your work, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. But
I,
I mean, the arts are fairly well funded here. I think we still have the same problems that are had all over the world, especially with what's going on now. Is that we depend on CD sales. We depend on people coming into gigs and buying tickets, and
mhm.
as streaming and everything else starts to take over, our means of creating stuff, our ways of keeping ourselves alive while creating stuff, are dwindling in front of our eyes. And
Yeah.
that's a worldwide thing, and it's just as much of a problem up here as it is anywhere else.
It's almost like a third of our income has just swept
Disappeared.
away.
Yeah.
And because that money's gone, a lot more people are being forced to record at home and cut corners on what their albums sound like because there's just not enough money to record music. So you're finding a lot of people just sitting down and playing the guitar in front of a mic like this and
Yeah.
putting out records around it. So
But
it's
eventually, what's going to happen is the only people that are making music are going to be rich people,
yeah,
right? This whole era of popular populist singer songwriters, yourself and myself and whatnot, who came from middle or working class backgrounds, all that is in danger right now.
yeah,
Because I was able to put a roof over the head and food in the fridge for a family of four as a folk singer. Think about that.
yeah.
You
That's
know,
amazing. And I think of all the money in my folk music career that's going towards my ex and my kids as well on a constant basis. It's expensive to be a musician, isn't it? Hey, you were going to mention something about Sympathy for the Devil, and
yeah,
before
because
I
I
cut you
thought,
off,
and then when you were playing it, I thought I'm going to check this, but it was actually inspired not by the Bible, but by a book by another Russian author.
oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, Mikhail Bulgakov, and a book of his called "The Master and Margarita," and uh,
Wow.
and it's about the devil paying a visit to Moscow, and this is like set in the 19 Moscow in the 1920s, mid 1920s, and the whole thing starts with these two bureaucrats sitting on a bench, an older bureaucrat and a younger bureaucrat, and they're having this discussion. Like the older bureaucrat is sort of schooling him on party policy, and especially party policy as it regards Christianity and Jesus and whatnot. And the young guy is going, yeah, but I mean, Jesus existed, didn't he? And the old party guy is going, no, it's just a tale that was made up, in order to dupe the people into giving. But there's this guy sitting on another bench, and he walks over and he goes, I'm very fascinated in your conversation. And the guy goes, well, why is that? And he goes, well, because of course Jesus existed. And he goes, well, how would you know? And he goes, I was there when they crucified him. And it's the devil, right? So the devil
Yeah.
then has this whole.
What is the name of the
It's
book
called
again?
The Master and Margarita.
The Master and Margarita.
Yeah, and so then the devil spends the rest of his holiday in Moscow. He's accompanied by this 6.5 foot tall, wall-eyed henchman and a huge cat that waves around a Mauser pistol, and that's one part of the story. But then he takes over and he sort of starts driving Moscow crazy. He causes all these accidents to happen and whatnot, but he also takes over the mind of this young author and has that author start writing the story of the devil. Right?
That's great. That's great. And it's such an amazing song, isn't it? It's so well written. Its use of language is so great. And I think it might be his finest lyric, Mick Jagger's.
Yeah.
Just
inspired by a book.
Yeah. And look at that. Listen, I'm going to step out, let you do a couple more songs, everybody. This is my good friend, James Keelaghan, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes, brother.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to play one. I'll play two more. This one was inspired by, straight out of a history book. And of all things, History of the War of 1812 by this guy. A lot of Americans won't know him. A lot of Canadians will. A guy by the name of Pierre Berton, and he was Canada's sort of pop historian in the 60s and 70s. I still love Pierre Berton books just because he manages to cram so much history into the whatever it is that he's writing about. But like I say, this is from the story that I found in his 2-volume History of the War of 1812. And there was this short paragraph that had to do with Tecumseh and had to do with this legend associated with Tecumseh, that he apparently only loved one woman in his life, and that woman's name was Rebecca Galloway. And Rebecca and her father were the ones that taught him to speak English. And the legend is that he fell in love with Rebecca and she fell in love with him. And he showed up one day at the house with a pack train of 6 horses with fur and blankets and all manner of other courting articles, and he asked her for her hand in marriage. And she said yes, but she put the proviso on it that should she indeed marry him, he'd have to give up the ways of a Native American and come live like a white man in town. And to his everlasting glory and credit, he turned around and walked back into the woods. And, the story is probably apocryphal and probably was touted a lot by the Galloway family. But it is one of these sort of iconic little stories about Tecumseh in that time. And, I'm a real kind of romantic. And your first impression when you look at that question with that proviso, her saying you'll have to give up your way of life and come live like a white man in town, your first impression is like, oh, how disrespectful of his. But that's not what was going on. If you buy the fact that they were in love, then what she wanted to do was save the life of the person that she loved. And so I wrote this song from her point of view. It's called Rebecca's Lament. The last time I saw him, he'd been swallowed by the wood. I'd have followed if I could. He'd have stayed had he wanted. Had he the desire, or had I the will, I would be with him still. But instead he just haunts me. I knew when he faded I'd ne'er see him again. His laughter's embrace would no more me surround. The chill that went through me is the chill wind that blows through the soft midnight stillness of Chillicothe town. The smell of the blanket I wrapped around his shoulders comes back to me now on a faint wisp of smoke, comes back with a vengeance that makes me remember those nights round the fire when fond words we spoke. That blanket was woven in some shattered village that is gone now forever, may never be found. As people are scattered, their fondest hopes dashed, he'd have been better off here in Chillicothe town. And I knew from the start just where he stood about his intentions. There was no mistake. To Stame and his dream, so dear to his heart, was the one thing he knew he must somehow forsake. He just couldn't see that the old ways were passing, a new wave was rising, and he would be drowned. And like it or not, the history's written not in the forest, but in Chillicothe town. There's sadness in parting from what we hold dear. There's a danger in staying, for fear we'll be lost. When half of us wishes to live out our dreams, the other half reckons and counts out the cost. But we may go on to far greater glory by knowing where fortune is sure to be found. I wish him no ill, though I wish him no fame, than such fame as he'd find here in Chillicothe town. And the last time I saw him, he'd been swallowed by the wood. I'd have followed if I could. He'd have stayed had he wanted. That's Rebecca's Lament.
Beautiful, man. Hey, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing some time here with
pleasure.
me. I cannot wait to be sitting somewhere with you with a little bit of bourbon or something and just chatting and swapping songs.
Yeah,
whenever
absolutely.
that is.
It's coming to where I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, it's looking good. And I hope it's either up there or down here. You tour all the time in the States, I know. And hopefully...
well, maybe we can get one of our Irish tours to
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be really, really fun. James,
I'd like to spend a week writing with you in Ireland.
That'd be great. We could have bookended trips to Ireland and then meet in the middle and just find a cabin and write. Yeah, that would be so fantastic, man. Always good to hear you. And I just want to mention a couple of my favorite songs of yours, Cold Missouri Waters and Curious Piano, and which are so in the vein of storytelling. And Cold Missouri Waters. Was that based on a book too, or just the story of the fire?
Well, the story of the fire, which is famous where I come from, but also it was really spurred by a book called Young Men and Fire by Norman MacLean.
Yeah,
which is the best history of that fire. And the reason that I chose Dodge as the narrator is because in the book, although he's a presence in the book, he's not in the book. There's not even a picture of him in the book. He's like this, and I think MacLean did that on purpose to write Dodge as though he was a ghost, walking through this story rather than so I felt when I knew I wanted to write a song about that incident, and so I wanted to give him a voice that he didn't have in that book.
Well, it's so beautiful. I want everybody that is just discovering James, who's in my audience for the first time, to seek those songs out. And we'll see you somewhere down the road, my friend.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait, Ellis. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a total pleasure.
My pleasure. I'll circle back after the show and just check in with you
okay.
for details. Okay. All right. Talk
Cheers.
soon. That's James Keelaghan, everybody. Thank you for taking care of him in the tip jar as well. It's Tranquilla Music on PayPal. We've been doing this show all throughout the pandemic, and every Friday night, 8 p.m., bringing in some of the best songwriters in North America. Next week, it's going to be Chris Matthews and Heather May coming in. We're going to be talking about songs about social justice, which is going to be a really great time. Want to remind you again of the festival to celebrate the 1-year anniversary. Tom Rush, Susan Warner, Vance Gilbert. It's Ellis Paul's Traveling Medicine Show Festival. We're going to have multiple stages. That's on Sunday, May 23rd. You can get your ticket by just focusing your camera on that QR code there in the corner. And there you can see this amazing lineup of Canadian and U.S. artists, from Benjamin Dakota Rogers, who's only 24 years old, a Canadian emerging artist, to Tom Rush, who is 80, a legend of the American folk scene, and the architect of the singer-songwriter movement that happened in the 1970s. So come out to that show. If you want to get a cheaper ticket, join my Patreon page. Before all you Canadians step away from us here, I wanted to sing one of my favorite Canadian songs. Doesn't have much to do with books. I think we're going to leave that topic today. In preparing for the festival and all the other work I've done in the past 24 hours, I only learned and barely learned a couple of these story songs. And so I'm going to step away from them now. Want to thank Noreen again, Matthew Winters, and Dennis for the love in the tip jar. And I also wanted to correct my guitar settings. I'm sorry. This is one of the things that happens when you're multitasking during the day, trying to see your kids and get ready for the show and learn songs and all of that. We got to do this. There we go. This will improve the guitar sound greatly. Thank you guys for pointing that out. I wanted to talk to Jim about Oscar Lopez. Next time. Yesterday, a child came out to wonder, caught a dragonfly inside a jar, fearful when the sky was full of thunder, and tearful at the falling of a star. And the seasons, they go round and round. Painted ponies go up and down. We're captured on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. The child has moved 10 years through the seasons, skated across 10 clear frozen streams, and words like "when you're older" must appease him, and the promises of someday fill his dreams. And the seasons, they go round and round, painted ponies go up and down. We're captured on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in a circle game. 16 springs, 16 summers gone now. Cartwheels turn to car wheels through the town. They tell him, take your time, it won't be long now, before you drag your feet to slow the circle down. And the seasons, they go round and round, painted ponies go up and down. We're captured on the carousel of time. Can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. And the years spin round, and soon the boy is 20, and his dreams have lost some grandeur coming true. But there'll be more dreams, better dreams and plenty, before the last revolving year is through. And the seasons, they go round and round, painted ponies go up and down. We're captured on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. Go round and round and round in the circle game. All right, that's Circle Game by Joni Mitchell. I'm a huge Joni Mitchell fan. Most of you folks already know that. One more announcement here. Bob Seifert, thank you so much for the love and the tip jar. All of you folks that supported the show tonight. Timothy Chape, thank you. And I agree, I will never sing that Police song again. I promise you. Just that once. Man, but God, you know, this is one of the beautiful silver linings that's happened in the course of this pandemic, is learning these songs. Learning how, like, the fact that the key change switch between the chorus and the verses in that song is so outrageous. And then there's octave jumps. It's the kind of songwriting that is so alien to how I think when I'm writing and putting chords together. That Police song is just absolutely spectacular. I'm going to do one more song here for you guys, but before I do that, I want to remind you that I'm also running a songwriting retreat. It's going to happen over Memorial Day weekend, and I've got a little bit of an ad here for it. Check this out. Hello, everybody. This is Ellis Paul, the host of the New England Songwriters Retreat, and we are going virtual. Because of the pandemic, we had to postpone the last two gatherings, and we just couldn't wait any longer. If you're looking for an immersive experience around the craft of songwriting that's safe and supportive, this is a place for you to come. It's happening over Memorial Day weekend, May 28th to the 31st, and look at this cast of characters who will be instructing. You got Katie Curtis, a mainstay on the American folk circuit for the last 30 years. Dan Navarro, who wrote the hit song We Belong for Pat Benatar. Laurie McAllister from Red Molly is our camp coordinator. And of course, myself, that's over 100 years of songwriting experience. And that's just me. Actually, that's combined. A great gathering of people and more surprises to come. We're going to have lectures, classes, song circles, evening performances by the students that are going to be broadcast publicly over my social media network. And there's going to be a lot more surprises to come. A really fun environment. Come and roll at newenglandsongwriters.com, and we'll see you then, May 28th to the 31st, an immersive weekend around the craft of songwriting. All right, so yeah, that's the New England Songwriters Retreat. We have Katie Curtis, Dan Navarro, who wrote the hit song for Pat Benatar, We Belong, and much, much more. Many surprises coming that we're still working on. I want to thank you guys and Mr. James Keelaghan for sharing the night with me here tonight. I'm going to end with this song. This, again, is the end of the night song for the show, written by David Glaser, who's not with us anymore. I wonder where you are tonight. I wonder if you're driving on a winding concrete river in a raft of glass and steel. The darkness interrupted by a lonely bright oasis, a full tank and a coffee, and your bag behind the wheel. Long is the road that lies between us. Many are the days since you've been gone. May the angel on your shoulder guide you safely through the night. And may the concrete river bring you home. May the concrete river bring you home. I wonder if you're up tonight. I wonder if you're happy. I say a little prayer and send it out across the miles. I hope you're in a special place with people there that love you. And I hope you'll make it back to them before too long a while. Long is the road that lies between us, and many are the days since you've been gone. May the angel on your shoulder guide you safely through the night. And may the concrete river bring you home. May the concrete river bring you home. What a nice night. I'm just going to sit with you guys, play a little music here as the lounge, or what we call the lounge moment during the show, places where you guys can sit and hang out. Dennis McCracken, thank you. Gene French, Dana Prim for the love in the tip jar. You guys, thank you for the generosity over the course of the last 15 months. The show will continue. I've been doing 3 live stream shows a week with different themes. There's an all request show every Sunday night. The Friday night show is this one. And a Wednesday weigh-in show is what we call it. So as I'm starting to tour and missing weekends by being away from home, I'll be doing a different kind of show from the road, maybe even just collecting video of the places I'm traveling to. But this show will continue. We'll probably move it to a center point in the week, maybe on Hump Day on Wednesday or Tuesday, and keep on bringing in artists from all over the U.S. and Europe to do a special guest spot and share their insights on songwriting and their music with you. And so I'm grateful to you guys for supporting the show. We're going to continue this, and we're going to have this spectacular festival on Sunday, May 23rd to celebrate the 1-year anniversary. I hope you will join us. I'm going to put on a little music in the background as we sit. Put up your feet. Let me know how you're doing. Let's see. Why don't we do this?
I can while away the hours, confer it with the flowers, consult.
Man, I think I could have sat with James all night long, just talk books. What are your favorite books, folks? Let me know. I want to throw out a shout to A Prayer for Owen Meany. That's one of my favorite books. I'm a big John Irving fan.
With the thoughts I'd be thinking I could be another Lincoln if I only had a brain. Oh,
Katie wants to, Nancy wants to be, to have Katie Curtis on as a special guest. Yes, of course. Thank you, Darla. Thanks for stopping by again. Nice to have Canadians here, as you know. Susie Laver up in Ontario, Canada, thank you for swinging by.
I would dance and be merry, life would be a dignitary.
There it is. Yeah, Nancy Chestnut was asking to have Katie on. I would love to have Katie on. We'll talk about doing that maybe over the summer, okay? Rob Elliott, thank you for tuning in tonight. Derek Bird says hello to James. He's on the coast, he says. Ross, you can catch this either at the Patreon site or it'll be up on Facebook, at least for a little while, for a few days. So go and check that out. Stacey Rico loves A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin, which of course led to Game of Thrones, which I love. Jackie likes the Outlander books and the Wilderness series. I'm also a fan of Wallace Stegner. I've read Angle of Repose, but I haven't read The Wolf Willow. I'll have to look that one up.
Picture me, a balcony, above a voice sings so low. Wherefore art thou low?
Stoic Chipmunk says the historic bookwise The Seventh Cross is great. It's a World War II story.
Just to register emotion, jealousy, devotion.
Yeah, Stegner has a way. The language he uses is just so beautiful.
I could stay young and chip.
But how about that little verse that James wrote about the name in the trophy case? Was that just not beautiful? The new book American Dirt is well worth a read. Heather Craig says that she loves Wolf Willow. It's about her mom's hometown.
Life is sadly missing.
Stacy says her favorite non-fiction book is Memoirs of General Grant. Also 1,000 Years of Annoying the French.
But I could change my habits nevermore.
And Katie says Jim Harrison, especially his later life poetry.
I'm afraid there's no denying.
I've been reading, a lot of historical. I just read I think it was a Pulitzer Prize winner. It's a biography of Frederick Douglass. Just finished that. Just finished one of Michelangelo as well. I read a lot of nonfiction biography stuff. Robert, that is me. Again, if that's on the album based on this show, some of the cover songs I've done during the year. And I swung big tonight on that Police song, I tell you. Liz says Harlan Coben is one of her favorite artists, I believe, writers. Gilead by Marilyn Robinson, says Mike Morris. And all the Winnie the Pooh books. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Don't forget, next week is going to be Chris Matthews and Heather May. But I'll be here on Sunday night doing the All Request show for Patreon members, and it will go out on public forums, but we tend to shut it off after a couple songs and just continue on Patreon. We have over 1,000 members over there. Come and join the fray. It's a lot of fun over there. And good night. I wish you a great weekend, and cheers to you all. Peace.